Welcome back. Last video, we introduced you to the world of Therenor, a massive realm home to primordial giants. In that same video, we took a look at the Forgotten Realms Hill Giants, large, oafish, and gluttonous brutes, and transformed them into massive ape-like quadrupeds, which scavenge the endless rolling hills of this region. The reception of this video was incredibly positive, and I'm so happy roleplayers, storytellers, and world builders were all able to enjoy it. If you haven't watched that first video yet, I definitely recommend checking it out. Eventually, I would like to have videos covering all 6 giant types from the Forgotten Realms and how we reimagine them for our world, Therenor. Today, we'll be talking about stone giants, the changes we've made to their lore and their domains to help them better fit into our world, as well as showcase some unique stone giant designs, and finish off with a narrative piece set in the lush, subterranean caverns beneath Therenor's mountains. All speed paints showcased in this video are done by my girlfriend Lee, and you can follow her on both YouTube and Instagram. And with that out of the way, I hope you enjoy the video. Before we get started, I think it's important we take a look at the current iteration for stone giants in Dungeons & Dragons, and see if there's anything that we enjoy that we can use in our design. In the Forgotten Realms, stone giants are a gaunt, reclusive race, spending their days devotedly perfecting their artistic talents deep within their mountainous underground homes. Standing at an average height of 18 feet and weighing a whopping 9,000 pounds, stone giants are, in fact, not made of stone, but are hairless and have extremely thick skin and dense flesh. Stone giant culture is dominated by each individual's capacity to produce art. Artists in stone giant society are highly valued members. So much so that some of the most important bonds in a stone giant's life is not familial, but between a student and their mentor. Master artists in a community are often placed in spiritual or leadership roles, and those with less defined artistic skills act as defenders and hunters for a group. Rarely, a stone giant may leave the safety of their subterranean homes and embark on a spiritual journey to the surface world. Here, stone giants believe their actions have no consequences, like they're in a dream. Stone giants which spend too long on the surface may be driven mad by the constant fluctuations of their surroundings. Known as dream walkers, these giants physically warp the world around them, collecting creatures and objects they deem significant, affixing them to their bodies in a casing of stone. I think stone giants have a lot of flavor when it comes to their culture, and I really like the reclusive nature and artist-centered societies that stone giants in the Forgotten Realms are known for. Overall, I think there's a lot here that we can work with. What I have to figure out now, though, is how to make it more environmental. The giants in Therenor are very deeply connected with nature, something that the Forgotten Realms stone giants don't really care about. And if they're on the surface world in one of their dream-walking spiritual journeys, may even actively destroy. So our primary goal for reimagining stone giants is to bring them more towards this nature aspect. I know a really common redesign option in homebrew games when it comes to stone giants is making them out of actual stone, and I do like that idea. I want to use it, but I want to add more to it to make it more unique to Therenor. I briefly discussed this idea in our first video, but Therenor is an incredibly old world where ancient nature magic can be found in everything, and this includes the environment, like the valleys, the trees, and the oceans. Each mountain in Therenor is claimed by a stone giant, which has been sculpted from its rock and imbued with its spirit. They are guardians of the continent's highest peaks, carefully and purposely carved by their predecessors to be ever-present pillars of order. Gentle and unwavering, they are dutiful and benevolent beings that act as heralds of nature's will. Stone giants are a timeless race, with some giants claiming to have lived for tens of thousands of years. They can speak, see, and hear, although their eyes and mouths do not move, and their joints contain soft and malleable natural materials, like mud, silt, and clay, to allow for locomotion. A stone giant's age can be estimated by the visible weathering and erosional marks along their asymmetrical bodies, with older giants experiencing fracturing, missing digits or limbs, or being overtaken with plant growth. Elder stone giants are revered by their peers as selfless bastions of nature who have devoted millennia to the balance of the realm. A stone giant will spend upwards of 20 hours a day surveying the wilderness of its mountain, often accompanied by native fauna, druids of a local circle, or even fey creatures. Stone giants are peaceful beings, only showing aggression and disdain towards those who actively harm their territory. When they are not observing the wilds, stone giants will retreat to their subterranean homes, which consist of chambers all connected by a vast underground river system. Here, giants converse with one another, trade for goods and treasure, and share important information regarding the safety of their mountains in a secret tongue of hums and whistles which echo throughout the caves for miles, before ascending to the surface to continue anew. To protect is in a stone giant's nature. Villages located on or near a mountain may be under the watchful eye of its giant, who will come to their aid in times of distress. Villagers treat the giant as a guardian spirit, keeping idols of the giant's likeness in their homes carved out of wood, bone, or rock, and making sure to show both the giant and its mountain respect and gratitude when encountered. Not all stone giants are on good terms with their neighboring small folk, however. Deforestation, mining, and overhunting are on the rise as small folk civilizations continue to expand. Coupled with hill giants losing grazing territory within the Great Expanse and wandering towards the mountains, stone giants near these towns are beginning to feel pressured into action. Stone giants are inherently magical and have an array of non-lethal spells at their disposal, such as plant growth, web, and sleep, and will almost always try to subdue a threat before engaging in violence. If this does not work, however, a stone giant will quickly pulverize a threat with fists of rock to prevent any damage to its territory. Stone giants do not naturally expire. Instead, they willingly dispel the ancient spirit which gives them life once they can no longer function as a protector. Stone giants who believe their body is starting to fail them will prepare for this moment by beginning the construction of a new giant to take their place. Stone giants are sculpted out of the minerals local to their mountain, such as granite, sandstone, basalt, and limestone, and this process is normally completed by the giant. The loss of fingers or limbs, however, may require them to enlist help from druids, other stone giants, or even skilled small folk masons. A stone giant that outsources their work will handsomely reward the sculptor with animal hides, ivory, gemstones, and raw precious metals for their labor. Much consideration is taken into sculpting a successor. A stone giant can spend years contemplating their thousands of achievements and shortcomings before settling on a design. Perhaps one giant, a brazen and passionate protector of the wilds, feels that they were too quick to act and will sculpt his successor with a much more tempered and wizened appearance. When complete, the giant will undergo an ancient ritual to transfer its spirit to the new vessel, adopting both a new name and a new personality to match. The predecessor is then stored in a chamber within the giant's domain, along with their dozens of ancestors. If the stone giant's body is irreparably damaged or destroyed before they have the opportunity to create a replacement, stone giants from neighboring mountains will work together to construct a new successor, and will communally guide the new giant along its path. No one truly knows who created the first stone giants. What little remnants remain show their forms were crude and misshapen. However, dozens of generations have been created since, and the forms stone giants take are now one of a kind, often inspired by established small folk culture in the area. Because stone giants are truly one of a kind, a lot of liberties can be taken when creating a design. One of the primary goals we set for ourselves when designing these stone giants in particular was trying to capture that oddness that you can find in many old world statues, with their exaggerated features and weird proportions. By referencing these statues in our designs, we felt we were more able to capture that timeless feel to them. Some of these giants have soft, rounded features from the millennia they have devoted to the wilds, while others may have been formed in more recent centuries. Others display cracks and fissures, and even have entire sections fractured and shattered from their bodies, likely due to past conflicts. Some giants are decorated and adorned in garlands, embedded gemstones, or fabrics and furs, which could show that they have formed a deeper connection with their neighboring small folk than other giants have. This particular giant is sculpted from marble, with intricately chiseled leaf-like patterns across their chest and shoulders. The expensive unblemished stone and nature patterns carved into it might suggest that this is a newer generation giant, whose mountain may reside close to an affluent city, possibly one with elvish cultural roots. They also have an unnaturally elongated torso, which was a trait introduced initially when we were designing the much more ancient first generation of stone giants. We thought it would be neat to see that giants were still being traditionally carved in this way. This stone giant also has 3 faces, and their purpose can be interpreted in a few ways. Perhaps this giant's predecessor felt they were too oblivious to the dangers which threatened their home, and as such wanted a successor who was thorough and observant. Maybe this particular giant's mountain houses an important relic or artifact, and they were designed as an unfaltering warden tasked with guarding it. It could also be that this giant's forebearer was too trusting of small folk civilizations in the past, and wanted their successor to be just as willing to deceive for the good of the wilds. Any one of these could be this giant's story, but it could also be something else entirely. I would love to hear any ideas you may have to explain the design choices we made for this giant. To conclude this video, I would like to leave you with another narrative piece which recounts a lone traveler's journey deep underground, where they get to witness a once-in-a-millennia, life-renewing ritual. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe so you can be alerted when I post more about the world of Therenor. Lee and I have been really enjoying our time making these videos, and we couldn't be happier with how positive everyone has been. Thank you for watching, and enjoy. For someone unaccustomed to the environment deep below the surface, surviving here can be a struggle. The damp, stagnant air is thick in the lungs, and the constant presence of airborne fungal spores cloud both the head and the sinuses. Massive, tree-sized fungi stalks dot its jagged, rocky landscape, which is covered in a thick layer of moss. Visibility is low, tinted in the faint greens and purples of glowing lichen, making the possibility of slipping and falling hundreds of feet from one of the many cliffs a startling likelihood. The caves are loud, echoing with the thunderous rushing of the subterranean rapids, although this sound soon enough fades from the mind after hours of exposure. The river, vicious and unrelenting, would easily waste any surface world vessel that dared use it as passage. Despite all of its hardships, the cave systems of Therenor house some of the most breathtaking natural wonders one can find, as towering caverns open up to a sky of glimmering bioluminescent spores, like a world cast in perpetual twilight. I have spent numerous days in this treacherous world in search of precious gemstones, but to no avail. I logged today's failure in my journal and prepared to retire for the night. Amidst the sounds of the rushing stream, however, I could just barely hear something which caught me by surprise. It was a faint humming, echoing from a stray passageway in a language I could not immediately decipher. Perhaps the spore inhalation was playing tricks on my mind, but curiosity overcame me as I set foot in the direction of the noise. As the voices grew louder, I was able to identify the language as Druidic, although the words were still lost on me. The chamber was lush, overflowing with vibrant plant growth, and the room radiated a warm, welcoming glow. Small streams of fresh mountain water sparkled in the cave light, bringing life to this thriving ecosystem. Throughout the room sat multiple massive humanoid statues, their knees brought high to their chests, their features muddled and covered in patches of moss and fungi. In the center of the cove sat one statue in particular, whose closed eyes and smiling face was faint and rounded after what must have been thousands of years of erosion. Seated directly in front of it was a second statue, sleek and intricately detailed out of marble. Carved into its form was 3 faces, the centermost form soft and tempered, while the side faces were fierce and unforgiving. Moving about the room was 5 druids, cloaked in furs and humming their solemn, heartwarming melody. Quickly, I scurried behind a stalagmite, avoiding their detection for the time being. With nowhere to go, I eagerly began to document the event. While I have never personally encountered one, these were most assuredly stone giants. Both giants in the center of the chamber had their knees pressed to one another, and each were adorned with garlands, fur, and antler bone ornaments. The marbled giant was still and lifeless, while the smiling one gently swayed to the druid's tune. After some time, the smiling giant steadied itself, and the druid's humming began to grow in volume. The chamber itself brightened, plants started to bloom, and fungi released glistening clouds of spores, as if the wilds itself were empowered by their voices. The cove's glow was intense, and I felt as if I was staring directly into torchlight as my lungs burned from the spores and the humming boomed throughout the cavern. As quickly as it had escalated, it stopped entirely. Blinded and retching from spore inhalation, I could hear the shifting of stone while my eyes adjusted and the cove dimmed to its natural state. I could only focus on the marble giant, now standing, having shed its ceremonial adornments, and staring back at me. I ran, stumbling throughout the caves in a desperate bid to flee. The air, thick with spores, choked my lungs and dazed me, making my escape much more difficult. I pushed until my body gave out, collapsing in the passageway, my vision fading to black. I awoke on the surface at the mouth of the cave I had first entered days prior, my head pounding but otherwise in one piece. My belongings were all accounted for, and I sat for a moment in disbelief, certain I should have perished. While I may not have found the gemstones I was in search of, I am nonetheless thankful to have been given another chance at life.